Don't chase virality and don't chase things that you think might work for the day. Chase consistency, chase reliability. Hey, my friend, it's Matt here again, CEO of Profit Engines. Now, quick gut check before we start today. If your marketing isn't converting like it should be, it is because you need more tactics? Is that what it is? Or is it because the message isn't landing right? What is it? Here's the truth, and it's uncomfortable. People don't buy because of perfect logic. They buy when it feels right. They buy when your story sounds like their story. Stick with me. In the next few minutes, I'm going to hand over to you a story engine that you can drop into your business today. Now, there's no fancy funnels, no giant ad budgets or anything like that, just stories. And that's what builds trust. And that's what turns trust into action and people buying and you getting revenue and profit for your business. Okay, so facts are forgettable, feelings stick. No one remembers the spec sheet they saw or remember the moment. Then the chorus hits and they feel it in their chest. That's the music side of me. Marketing works the same way. When you tell a story, you're not dumping information. You're putting someone inside an experience that they recognize. Now, let me paint the difference. We help businesses owners save time and grow faster, right? Boring. Sounds okay, but wallpaper. Now this. A client came to us who was literally fried out of his brains after 12-hour days, still missing calls and losing leads. We installed one simple follow-up system with AI and an account manager to help him. And in 3 weeks, he had more clients and he had his Fridays off that he could take and go back with his family. Now, that's a little bit more dramatic than we needed, but do you see the before and after? That's when people say, that sounds like me. And the second someone says that, your marketing starts working. Here's why most marketing falls flat. It talks to people instead of with them. It lists features and tosses out big promises and long lists of how much you're going to make and how important it is to make sure that you know who we are. And it makes people forget that they're human. Now, again, your message doesn't feel real to the person hearing it, and it gets ignored in that case. Not because they don't care, not because they can't see themselves in it, but really because you haven't defined the role that you're trying to get the person to play with you. So we're going to fix that right now. We're going to build your story engine. It's simple, it's repeatable, and it works anywhere. Landing page, YouTube, Instagram, podcast, sales call, all the same, because you're really trying to build what the strategy is. Now, your story engine runs on these kinds of stories. You don't need to force all three all the time, but when you're using them in the right order across your brand, they create a rhythm. People lean into what you're trying to do. First, you have to have an origin story. Now, this isn't a movie script, it's just the truth. Why does this matter? What matters to you, what problems to solve, what you saw, why you decided to do it, what solved your problem, the very essence, right? So mine, I wasn't born with a playbook to try and build out a marketing agency. I wasn't really worried about trying to become some multi-million dollar agency. It just came down to me not getting a job. When the economy crashed, I couldn't get a job and I decided to help people. And when I decided to help people, they started listening more and more about what I could help them with because I was kind of more of the guy that everybody wanted to relate to. And that changed everything. I actually could talk with people and solve huge problems. And I learned more. And with other business owners, I got to know their businesses and find out what their problems were and solve their problems, right? So that's a simple origin story. So it's not about being impressive. It's actually just about being real. See, people don't trust perfect. They trust purpose. And if you skip this, you turn into just another talking head. And add to that, you become a guide with a reason when you do it for your own reasons. That's the real cool part about being a person who has an origin story. And you probably think right now you have an origin story that you could tell people when you start running your content. Second, client winning stories. Now, this isn't about bragging, it's proof. Show the before and after, the turning point, the things that happened to the client. Let people try to understand in their mind the thing that you're offering that they can solve on their own because of the situation that you solve for somebody else. So, one of our clients posted weekly on YouTube for years and years and years, never got any clients. And now, after we worked with them, we fixed all the problems that they have, and we started to retitle their videos and put thumbnails up and do the right thing for them. Oh my goodness, 50,000 views, then 100,000 views. Then we cannot keep the amount of leads coming in for the client, right? From broke and out of business to I can't handle the amount of leads. Now, there's no, crazy things here that are difficult to understand, but the truth wins. And if you can share your client's progress, if you can change the world by working with people in the wild and showing the differences of what you've done, that is validation on steroids. Okay, third, it's your vision. Where do you think this is going? What do you believe should exist next? Why do you think your approach is different? Like, what is it about you? Most owners are stuck with just these typical, like, okay, we do X, Y, and Z for X, A, B, C, right? This is like the 2010 playbook. Try to hustle harder, work more, stack more logs on top of each other, build more funnels. The future, though, is actually system driven. And this growth that we're trying to do, and again, growth related to story engines, these are the things that they hum quietly in the background. So you can spend less time trying to hustle and make lots of more, let's just say, dust and clouds than doing what you really are best at, right? This the things that you build, the things that where you're headed. This type of story, the third story here, when your audience can see your direction, they're more likely to come with you. So the question is, if you skip it, they're just going to blend into the rest of the noise. So having your vision, like we do with our company, that we want to help people tell their stories and then automate their systems and then make more profit from these systems that we build for them while explaining their story in all the channels. Totally makes sense to me. It's our vision. It's the vision I've had for years. And I've finally gotten my hands around it to do it for local businesses here, especially in northern New Jersey where I am, but we can go anywhere in the country. Now, don't use these types of stories in isolation. It's not like it's some sort of magic, right? There are all sorts of ways to link these stories together. The origin builds trust. The client stories build proof. The vision builds authority. That's the sequence that turns content into clients. Now, use the right story in the right spot, right? You have to do it where you think it would make sense. On your about page on your website, well, there's your origin story, right? When you send an email out to a client or you're sending out a mass email to your client roster, you're talking about testimonials and client wins. Or on your podcast, if you have a podcast, or if you want to do your blogs, you want to talk about these absolute crazy things that you've done for clients. And then in the vision, you just want to make sure you're keeping people aware of what you're doing by constantly letting them know what you're up to and what are the new things you're doing. Now, how do you do this without sounding like a rambling idiot? And that's a big question, right? Because we have a lot of clients who they just get on and they send us videos and they say, fix it for me. I'm like, well, that's not how it works. You have to actually organize your thoughts and put them into strategy and put things together. You can't tell a story from the back end to the front end or ramble around like you're just trying to get 3 or 4 sentences in together and push it together. But here's some simple structures I use everywhere. There's 3 moves. Start with the problem, right? Be specific. What was the broken or painful or confusing thing? This doesn't have to be a novel. Basically, in a sentence or two, like I was working all the time on my agency, trying to do all these different things that never worked because I wasn't cohesively getting my team together to get the systems together to solve problems that were just day-to-day backups that I needed to get done. And finally, I put the systems together, right? So once that started to happen, it actually changed my life. right? I put in systems and structures. So that little system of trying to remember like what the problem is and what you solved is very easy as a way to start stories. And that's a really good way to actually start working on your own storytelling. Then the turning point. What changed? What was the direction? What was the realization? What was it? What was the thing that changed everything for you? And what happened to me was that I actually got the team to kumbaya around our system follow through and our system that caught every single problem that was going through our onboarding and our nuances of bringing clients on board. And we straightened it all out. Now, it wasn't perfect, but you know what? We started the movement of creating a much more perfect system. And that's what the difference was. Now, what did we learn? So now we've talked about what was the problem, what changed it, and what did we learn? Well, the thing I learned is that you have to work closely with everyone on your team and let them fix the problem. Don't adapt your mindset to their working situation. So I let the team solve the problem. I asked them, what would you do? What would you do different now? How would you be able to now do these things on your own if I wasn't here? I used to tell my second command, pretend I'm not here. I died. What would you do? How would you solve these problems? Right? And he worked with the team and we solved the big problem across the whole company, which result gave us what? A multi-million-dollar company that made it to the Inc. 5000 eventually. Now, let's handle the landmines that kill good stories. Too many details. So don't be the guy whose stories run 50% too long. We all know those people. If a detail doesn't make sense or doesn't move or deepen the connection with your audience, let's leave it out. Think like a producer trimming a track for a movie, right? Until only the real guts remain, all the real hook of whatever's happening, right? Descriptive filler, right? School teacher, more objectives, more marketing, more clarity. You don't need to be crazy about what you're doing, but you do need to be specific. So if you're thinking about just watching the rain outside, well, what did it do? Well, the rain outside was sideways and spilled in my coffee and knocked it over on my table. Like to give a little bit more adjective or objective feeling to it. Now, I do this in songwriting a lot, right? I start with something simple, then I expand upon it. So you do want to get some sort of level of understanding, but still keep it tight. So it's basically triggering more emotions in your conversation. Stories with no point, right, don't work at all. Every story needs a reason to exist, a takeaway that matters to the audience. So it doesn't mean that you can't explain your story without basics, but it does mean that you need to lead the client or somebody who's listening to you somewhere. That means to likely an answer, which is an offer that you want to bring, right? Which is something that you want to bring in front of the client to make yourself the hero. So let your customers be the lead, right? You're the guide. Show the path. Hand them the map. They don't care about how great you are. They actually care about how you help them win. So trying to sound clever, this isn't really an interesting way. Now, I don't mean to take away from your writing, meaning that or your video. You do have to be descriptive, as I said before. Don't make it bland, but it's not like a writing contest. So talk like a real person. A rule I always use, if you can't think about it easily and you can't understand it rationally, meaning that you really have to own the language. And I do this even with my songwriting. The messaging, if you can't say it simply, you don't really own it. Making it all about you, even when the story is personal, tie it back to them. That's the key. This is how it applies to your business. This is how it applies to you. And that makes people understand that this bridge is obvious back to them, right? This is how it applies to you. Now let's wire this story engine into your marketing so it actually moves the numbers or the needle for your business. On your homepage, lead with a client win. Hook them in with a quick before and after so they can feel what you're doing. Then a point to a clear next step. That's a simple thing that you can do on your website. On your about page, Tell them the origin. Short and human. Why you care? What do you stand for? What do you stand against? The things that are basic. On your service offer pages for your website, sprinkle 3 or 4 micro stories in there from clients, right? Tell them where you're going, right? Now, a lot of times I work with people and they say, I don't have time. It didn't work for me. It's not my niche to do this. These are things that need to be infused in all of these conversations. You need to think about what the examples of people's reactions about what they would not say, right, in a conversation, but what they're thinking in the back of their mind. So those examples of how it won't work and how I tried it before, and it's not my area of expertise to know about this. Let's diffuse those in that conversation. And sometimes you can even put a little short video that covers all of these challenges that the customer may be thinking in their head. Tease them a little bit about how things will work. Show them a little bit of the examples, right? In the videos that you have that you can actually get them to come along with you. They don't need to be long, but tell them how you reveal the things that you do, right? Teach them a few things. Tell stories, invite them to take the next step. Basic things. If you can use email, which is one of the things that most people do rarely, you can rotate stories. You could rotate stories every week about clients, about your vision, about your origin stories or things that, are about you. Again, trying to make it across everything. Keep the language at a 7th grade level, not because people aren't smart, because clarity converts. Believe me, I've done this in many of my songwriting episodes and much of my looking at emails. I always go, could you write me something simpler? Let's build a few together right now so you can feel how fast this works. Let's get some examples. Now, origin. I started Profit Engines because I was just tired of getting in the same position of just not being able to solve problems that I wanted to for all of the clients, not just one niche. I knew that if I could stand out from the rest of the crowd and give people the systems and the story building and the strategy, that I would be able to help their businesses grow, no matter who they were, no matter what walk of life they were in. So I built this business, a simple strategy, Profit Engines, that basically builds structures and systems and utilizes AI to take people to the next step in getting new revenue, new clients for their business. It's that simple. That's the story, right? Without growth, without this growth issue around trying to find the businesses that were only adapted to previous niches. I wanted to be nicheless, right? Now, client win. We had a client that was negatively finding every month a minus 10,000, minus 15,000 in revenue, minus 20,000 in revenue, came to me finally and said, let's get things going. So we rebuilt their strategy for their YouTube and their TikTok and their Facebook. And all of a sudden, they became a national sensation for the niche that they're in, which is weight loss strategies. And now they do $400,000 a month in business, right? What's the vision that I have? The future isn't more like hard work. To me, it's systems and structures that run in the background that bring clients to your business and my business, by the way, and that focuses on the work that really matters, which is the stuff that I do that's important and the stuff that you do that's important for your business, instead of trying to manually work and manually do things and work on the things that don't need to be addressed, because these systems and AI can take care of most of the things that are more mundane than you could possibly believe. These things are absolutely critical, right? My vision has always been to clear up and get the clutter out and just make sales and revenue and profit for most businesses. And most of the time, it just takes some very simple engineering. Now, you could drop things like this into all of your different socials and put it on YouTube and put it in LinkedIn and put it into a blog post. You could have a company work with you like us to do it for you, right? These are things that we can do. Now, one last nuance that matters in 2025. Algorithms are like engines. They run better on consistent fuel than occasional just, let's say, going down to the gas station when your tank runs out. Don't chase virality and don't chase things that you think might work for the day. Chase consistency, chase reliability. So if you can lay down content every week, a simple cadence like I do right now, I do 2 pieces of content, 2 long form pieces of content every week at minimum, and get this out, because that is the key, is that if you can be consistent in your storytelling, things get easier because you get used to it. And remember, these are all part of the 3-part strategy. When in doubt, remember these 3 moves, right? The story, the problem, and the turning point. And then what was the result? And then, of course, what did you learn from it? If you just did that, story, problem, turning point, result, and learning, right? That sort of 3-part story. This is the end of saying, I don't know what to say. Because you certainly have problems in life. We all do. But you resolve them. If you just did that and you just did it consistently, you'd feel the needle move in your business. Now, I'll say one last thing. Let's land this. You don't need 100 more new tactics. You need stories. Sound like you're the buyer's life. Deliver it on your schedule. Systems can keep. That's the story engine. It builds trust, it builds proof, and it builds authority. And it does this without burning you out. If you're stuck and you want this wired into your business, you want some help right away, you can click the link below and you can talk to us, grab a call with me. We'll map out your story engine and build some simple follow-through that supports your business and figures out your next best move for everything, including trying to get you into your next stage of your life. There's no pressure. There's no clarity. There's no, hey, we're going to solve world hunger for you. But what we will do is just get you moving. Again, it's not about trying to get to the end of the rope. It's about taking that next step, right? And that focus comes from getting a little bit further down the path than you are today. Again, I'm Matt Coffy with Profit Engines and excited to see you in your journey. If you want to talk, let us know, or just check out this next video.